Hello everyone. So we are back in the cybersecurity news, and today we are covering the latest attack from last one day, which is for DNS hijacking on the D-Link home routers. So this is coming from the research done by few researchers, and as you can see on the screen, the news is coming from ZDNet, which says hacker group has been hijacking DNS traffic on D-Link routers for over 3 months. And you can read the news here from ZDLink for a summary, but if you want to read the whole research, that's available on badpackage.net and with all the details. So I'm going to cover the summary quickly so you understand what actually happened. So as per the researchers, in last 3 months they have seen on their honeypots and have detected DNS hijacking attacks targeting various types of consumer routers. So all these exploit attempts have originated from hosts on the network of Google Cloud Platform. In this campaign, researchers have identified 4 distinct rogue DNS servers being used to redirect web traffic for malicious purposes. So if you see on the screen on the right side, you can see the DNS hijacking exploit attempt source IPs. There are 7 IPs, and after that you can see the rogue DNS servers. There are four servers. I've tried to check these IPs on VirusTotal. For now they show green, they show good. I hope VirusTotal takes the feedback and mark them as malicious. Okay, so on this news, there are 3 waves which the researchers have covered, starting with the first wave, which happened on December last year, 29th, 2018. So in the first DNS hijacking exploit attempts targeted multiple models of D-Link DSL modems. So that's a difference. It's not routers. These were the DSL modems, and I'm going to show you the model numbers. These were the 4 model numbers: D-Link DSL 2640B, and then the other 3. And in that first phase, the IP address of the rogue DNS server used in that attack was 66.77.173.48, hosted in Canada. In the second wave, you can see on the screen that wave happened in February 6th, on February 6th this year, 2019, and targeted the same type of D-Link modems as listed above, but the rogue DNS server was different. It was as shown on my screen, 144.217.191.145, and again hosted in Canada. Moving forward, for the third wave, which is the latest one, March 26th, the latest wave of attacks came from 3 distinct Google Cloud Platform hosts and targeted additional types of consumer routers. So this time it is routers, and not previously seen before, including the different models. I'm going to bring up the model numbers so you can see the models. Okay, I think I just went down. Okay, yeah, so it's here. ARG W4A DSL router, D-Link 260E routers, SecureTeth routers, and Total Link routers. So these were the 3 phases. And then for the third phase, the IPs, the rogue DNS server IPs, I'm going to just bring up on the screen. There are 3 IPs instead of 1 IPs as earlier mentioned. I mean 2 IPs, not 3. 2 IPs in phase 3. So 195, 128, 126, 165, and 195, 128, 124, 131. And these ones are based in Russia. Then we try to understand, so the question is how the attack works. So this is how the attack works in different steps shown on this screen. So once the user's computer or smartphone receives the wrong DNS server settings from the hacker router, so at this point the settings are already changed on the infected router. The computer or the smartphone device receives the wrong DNS settings. Then the user tries to access the legitimate site. Then the user's device makes a DNS request to the malicious DNS server, because now the DNS server is already changed. Then the rogue server, which is the rogue DNS server, returns an incorrect IP address for the legitimate site, example facebook.com or google.com or yahoo.com, but a different site actually. And then in the last step, user lands on a clone of the legitimate site where he might be required to log in and share his password with the attackers. So example, if it's a gmail.com, if the DNS is already a different DNS server or rogue DNS server, then it can bring up a new website which is similar to gmail.com in the looks, and without checking the domain name, user may just go and type the user ID and password and expose the credentials to the attacker. But till now, as per the research, what legitimate sites the hackers targeted during these 3 campaigns remains a mystery. So I took the example of Google or Facebook or Gmail just as an example, but we don't know right now what which legitimate sites were impacted by this attack. Then the next big question is why mass scan was used to scan on port 81 TCP. But this was what the hacker did, and in all 3 waves a recon scan was done using mass scan, which is a tool to check for active hosts on port 81 TCP 81 prior to attempting the DNS hijacking exploit. So that's the page for the mass scan on the kali.org, and it's a pretty powerful tool, and as per the website, it mentions that this is the fastest internet port scanner, and it can scan the entire internet in just 6 minutes, transmitting 10 million packets per second. So if you want to play with the mass scan, you can actually go to Google and find some easy videos on how to use it, but be careful, you're gonna don't scan the whole network or whole internet. So that's the mass scan part, and we were discussing like why this scan was done on port 81 TCP. So that's because D-Link router sometimes are configured for the web access instead of port 80 or port 443 on different ports, next ports like port 81, port 82 or 83, 84, 85, just to have a different port instead of the generic ports 80 and 443 HTTPS. Okay, then we asked the big question, why the DNS hijacking attacks were conducted. So what's the motto of the attacker to conduct these attacks? So these DNS hijacking is also used for phishing attacks, which are largely transparent to the users. So in this case, the domain name of the targeted site is redirected by the rogue DNS server to a web server controlled by the threat actor, as I was saying earlier with examples. So these types of attacks aren't new, and they have happened before and are usually referred to under the name of DNS changer, because actually the DNS IPs are changed, so they're called DNS changer. And after the name of the first malware servers way back in 2000s, so it started from 2000s as per the news. Earlier, the DNS changer attacks include a massive malvertising, which is malicious advertising operations that took place in 2016, and during which malicious ads delivered router exploits that changed router DNS settings. So I'm going to bring up the news for the 2016 one, which was pretty famous. So this is the news from Proofpoint. It's a pretty good research. I am trying to still prepare a video on this one, but if you're interested, please go to the link mentioned here. I'll put it in the description also on the YouTube video. But this one happened in 2016. As you can see, December 13, 2016, this report was out from Proofpoint, which explains how this malvertising happened for Windows and Android devices. It's a pretty big report and research by the Proofpoint researchers. And the second one was the strain of IoT malware that infected routers in Brazil to change the DNS settings to hijack traffic meant for Brazilian banks and redirect it to phishing pages. That was available on ZDNet. It's pretty recent, from last year. So this says that gigantic 100,000 strong botnet used to hijack traffic meant for Brazilian banks. Again, you can go through this one. I'll put the link in the YouTube about this attack. So that's not only, these are not the only examples, but the DNS changer attacks have also happened at the level of nation state cyber espionage groups, and not just on the cybercrime scene. Okay, so this news I'm going to bring up, and this is the one from Kaspersky, which says that roaming Mantis uses DNS hijacking to infect Android smartphones. So again, another big research from Kaspersky. If interested, please go through this. I'll see if I can create a short summary video for this one also for the viewers. Okay, and then another big question is why a Google Cloud Platform was used by the attackers. So it's pretty easy. The answer is pretty easy, because anyone with a Google account can access the Google Cloud Shell machine by simply visiting the URL. And this service provides users with the equivalent of Linux VPS, which is the virtual machine for Linux, with the root privileges directly in a web browser. So due to the ephemeral nature of these virtual machines, coupled with Google's slow response time to abuse reports, it's difficult to prevent this kind of malicious behavior, because the attacker can just use one IP for one attack and then move to other IP, and it's pretty easy to use or register for the attackers. Okay, so that was the summary on this attack, and just as closing remarks, I would recommend users to keep their home routers firmware up to date, and whenever the security vulnerabilities are discovered, they are usually patched by the manufacturer, in this case D-Link, to mitigate further attacks. And it's also advisable to review your router's DNS settings to ensure they haven't been tampered with. I know we don't actually go and check the DNS IP addresses on the router configurations, but we should do that often. Typically, the DNS servers should be set to the ones provided by your ISP or well-known public DNS resolvers. I'm going to bring up the link for the well-known public DNS resolvers. Please check if it's used by your router, especially if you have a DNS if you have a D-Link router. Okay, so that's the list for the DNS servers. You can see it's on Wikipedia, public recursive name servers. That's the link. I'll put it in the description again, but it's a good and useful link. So that's the summary for our today's topic. Please subscribe, and please like the video. If you have any comments, please add the comments, and I'll add more useful daily news, daily cybersecurity news videos soon. Thank you. Bye everyone.